I would like to say that...
I love you.
Does that make me fat?
Whoa!
Yeah.
Whoa!
So basically, for all of you listening, if you're not rich, you're a violent criminal.
That's basically what it means. Jacob Dines.
Hello, Poppet.
Hello, Jacob Dines.
Hello, Poppet.
Hello, buddy. Buddy, old pal, old friend of mine.
Today is going to be a day of all days where we go through historical and geographical significance of the Second Amendment inside of the land of the Swiss.
I have, if every podcast is the day of all days, does that negate the day of all days?
No, it just reinforces it and embraces it, and it brings us all together.
That's truly magical.
It is. Today, my 2A
Proletariats,
protagonists, Pro B1 Kenobis.
My 2A prolapses.
My 2A probiotics.
That's better than a prolapse.
2A I don't even know what a 2A prolapse is.
You don't know what a prolapse is?
I don't know what a prolapse is. Ne'er have I heard of it. That's never. With 86 the V sub apostrophe. So, yeah, we're going to be talking about the one country who has...
I'll just show you a medical image. This is from a medical textbook. This is not an actual, like, you're not seeing it on a person. It's a drawing.
Okay.
But that should give you an idea of what it is.
Of a prolapse. I'm seeing a...
Do you understand what's going on?
It looks like a vagina or a butthole that's not supposed to be where it is.
Okay. All right. I'll show you.
I'm not a doctor, but I play one on the podcast.
That's prolapse.
What?
That's an asshole.
That is like
a prolapse is when
like a backwards. It's when the inside of the asshole is on the outside of the asshole.
Yes.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
If you folks don't know what a prolapse is, go to Google Images in incognito mode and find it.
Just don't.
That way your wife doesn't think you're into some weird shit.
Just don't Google it.
That was disgusting. And
it's gross.
I may never get hard again.
I'm hard right now. Into.
So I would like to say that
I love you.
The United States, we have guns.
We fucking love them.
Switzerland has guns.
And they fucking love them.
And so today we are going to be making comparisons between Switzerland and the United States, because Switzerland has more firearms per capita, I believe, than any other country in the entire world.
Yeah.
Just about more firearms per capita than any other country in the world.
Who knows? But since that was last taken, it might be equal with the U.S. now. We're not sure.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't matter because this is our podcast and this is the internet, so I'm right and you're fucking wrong. Period.
That's how that works.
That's how that works. Hashtag the more you know.
The more you know. So, I went down the rabbit's hole today.
Okay.
And I was asking myself, it's a common talking point it's actually on both sides, which is interesting. That's actually what I find the most interesting about the Switzerland debate.
Yes.
Is that both the pro-2A side and the anti-2A side use Switzerland as an argument point.
Yeah.
From the anti-2A side, they point out how regulated that the Swiss are with their firearms and how little crime there, or how little gun crime there is in Switzerland.
Right.
Where the pro-2A side goes, look at how many guns are in Switzerland and look at how little crime there is.
Right.
So both are kind of trying to use their argument by using the Swiss.
Right. And the anti-gunners out there are also they often use nations that say, hey, there's no gun crime in these countries because there are no guns.
Because there are no guns.
Cool.
So let's first break into that, because I feel like that is the most important kind of little niche of the argument to talk about.
Yep.
There is a rhetoric in the United States from
for those of you that are just tuning in and are wondering why the fuck we're even talking about this, I think it would be we'd be remiss not to say that we're talking about this because it was touched on in the last podcast that you would have listened to, or that you may not have listened to, which we talked about. We draw
Podcast 47. Jake has a stroke.
Yeah, we drew parallels between the way. Basically,
Nazi Germany took over.
Exactly,
Austria.
exactly. It was the initial undertakings of Nazi Germany, how they came to power, and kind of what's happening in our current world right now. And while that sounds like hyperbole, when you start seeing those parallels being drawn, it's really not so fucking crazy because you're like, holy shit, these are the same things happening. So
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
It doesn't sound
It's concerning.
Yeah,
to
it
say the
sounds
least.
crazy when I say it until you start going through the actual things, and then you're like, nah, it's really not that fucking crazy.
It's not that far-fetched.
It's not that far-fetched.
I know. I walked in and Carly was she was editing it.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Do you think the podcast is funny?" And she like slowly looks up and she's like, "I'm actually going through the kitty speech and it's kind of scary."
Yeah, yeah.
And I
She's
was like, "Yeah, it is."
Did I think it was funny? No, I think the podcast is terrifying.
I think it's horrifying.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, it was kind of like
The first 50 minutes are hilarious.
the
though.
first 50 were hilarious, and then it just got into very morbid, dark territory.
But it's important to know.
Yeah, so
it's one
that's
of those things where you can't just.
yeah.
your
Don't
eyes.
don't pull the wool over your eyes, and
Yeah.
don't stick your head in the sand. So, all right. So, what you got?
So, full circle back here. I think it's important to note that the anti-gun side in the U.S. uses the argument relatively consistently that it, and I've seen posts like this where it's just repeat line after line after line. It's the guns. It's the guns. It's the guns. It's the guns. It's right.
Right.
You get the point that the firearms are the problem.
Yep.
And you'll see from the pro-gun side that firearms are not the problem, which, let's face it, it's an inanimate object.
Yeah, we can all understand that it's not the problem. Or does that mean cars are the problem because there's many vehicle deaths?
Right.
Are spoons the problem because people are getting
Heart disease constantly.
heart disease constantly, and spoons are used to eat ice cream? So, like, at what point do we stop blaming the tool and start taking accountability for our own culture and our own life? And that's really the most important thing.
Exactly.
Nobody wants to take accountability. It's easy to blame the tool. It's easy to blame the thing.
Right.
Right. It is very difficult to take an inward look at our own society and the position that we have created and put ourselves in and say, hey, maybe we're not doing this right. Maybe it starts from a foundational level of being able to train our children about guns. Instead of telling them immediately the guns are bad, we start training them like you're about to talk about, I'm sure, about Switzerland, where they take their kids out and they actually have training days and they show them the importance of having a firearm, but also the importance of how to handle, operate, and manipulate a firearm.
Yes. And so like as I started going down and researching this more and more about Switzerland, what you kind of find here is while they have more, I use those quotes very kind of like loosely, right?
Yeah.
They have more gun laws per se, more stricter control, I guess.
Right.
It's very similar, if not the same, as the United States. So what you'll find is you have to be at least 18 to purchase a firearm.
Okay. Which I would venture to say that that's less. Because there are states like California where you have to be
21.
Where you have to be 21, and there are other states like that too, where you have to be 21 years old.
Right, if you want to purchase a handgun or a long gun.
That's right.
Yeah. Some states are still 18. Some go up to the 21 if you want to buy a semi-automatic rifle or a handgun.
Right.
You could buy a bolt action or a shotgun, but
Yep.
semantics. Am I right?
Yep.
But you have to be 18. You have to fill out a permit, which is interesting. So there you have to apply for a permit to get a firearm. Now there's multiple different permits. So there is just a notice that you would fill out to essentially what, I forget what the word is, I'll put it right here, but it's essentially like their state,
Okay.
right? Is you would fill it into the state office and just let them know, hey, I'm getting this gun.
Okay.
Yeah, just within 30 days of getting it. The second one is for handguns, essentially. I'm just kind of rounding these up, or auto loading rifles. And that is applying for the permit, saying, hey, I want to get this. This is a, it's a known weapon. And then there's banned weapons, which are fully automatics and stuff like that, which you can get a special permit for, like in the United States.
Like in the United States. Yeah, I'm reading right here that fully automatic firearms and most semi-automatic firearms that used to be fully automatic and weapons with high-capacity magazines are generally banned for civilian use. Other prohibitive items include machine guns. Yeah.
Yeah, so. The wording is a little weird, but it's a very key takeaway point that it was previously fully automatic firearms that were converted to semi-automatic.
Right.
So they would be easily convertible back. It's just like if you've seen a fully automatic AR, you know that there's a little bit more milling that goes on in the inside of the trigger well
to accommodate the auto sear.
Right. So that would be easier to convert. You get the point.
Yep.
But when you look at that in comparison to the U.S. laws, you have to be 18 or 21. You have to do your background check, which they do a background check. The only difference is you don't necessarily have to apply for a permit.
Yep.
But to carry a firearm, same. You have to apply for a permit.
Yep.
Same in both places.
Yeah, the carry, let's see. Yeah, a special permit is required to carry a firearm in public. Mm-hmm. Yep. So it can, and it looks like it's a may issue type thing where the individual has to demonstrate a legitimate need.
Yes, so. And their legitimate need is a lot more strict than the U.S.
Right.
So it is like you have to be like a security guard or
some sort of defense role.
Yes.
Okay.
Where in the U.S., thankfully, we are able to just say it's my right.
Right.
And that is good enough because it is. So going down that rabbit hole even further, it's a very similar kind of law and breakdown. And
storage and transport is the same.
Yep, exact same.
Firearms must be stored securely. Ammunition must be stored separately.
Yep.
Transporting firearms requires that they need to be unloaded.
Yep.
Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, no, it's almost identical except for their permitting.
Yep.
And so I'm kind of looking at this, right? And I'm going, I don't understand. How is it that their crime is so much less?
Right.
And then I tried to go into maybe it's because we have more people.
Maybe it's a per capita
Maybe
issue.
It's a per capita thing. Turns out that's not the case.
Right.
So I'm trying to weave this.
And so because how many people are in Switzerland? Roughly?
Like 8.5 million. And there's like 355 million in America.
8.5 million people. So roughly the population of like New Jersey. Yep.
I think New Jersey has 9.
Or Minnesota.
Yeah, it's one of those two. I think Minnesota has 6 and New Jersey has 9. So like it's like right in the middle there.
Yep.
So it's like one of our states. So I thought maybe it was a per capita thing.
Yep.
Not really. So then I started going down different rabbit holes. I was like, what could be the cause of the lower crime rate? Like why? Because it's obviously they have more guns.
Right.
There should be more crime if the problem is the guns, right?
If the problem is
the problem is the guns. But right there, it shows that the problem is not the guns because they have equal to, if not more guns than the United States.
Here's a novel proposition.
Hit me.
If you put a ton of ice cream in my freezer, does that make me fat?
Obviously, because it's the ice cream.
Right. You see where I'm going with this?
Exactly.
Now, you can stock my fridge full of unhealthy food, stock my cabinet full of unhealthy processed chips. If I choose not to eat them or I eat them in moderation, like they're supposed to be eaten, and not ice cream for fucking dinner, then I will probably remain healthy.
Right.
So it is not the fucking food in my fridge.
Ooh.
It is the food in my body that I choose to put in my body.
Correct.
Okay, so you can't stock my fridge and call me fat.
Right.
So you can't stock my country with guns and call guns dangerous.
Right.
Right. It is not the thing that causes the problem, or it is the human beings who choose what they are going to do with the thing.
It is simply a tool.
It is simply a tool.
It is simply a tool. So obviously, as you're alluding to everybody listening, it's a people problem.
Yes.
So as I started going down this, I started thinking to myself, what is the problem with Americans versus the Swiss?
Okay.
And there were a couple things that I started going down first. One, I was like, how much do they make on average? I was like, what's the median income?
Okay.
The median income for most American households is around 50 grand, in between 50 to 60.
Yep.
That is the median income of the US.
Annual.
The median income annually for Switzerland is close to 100 grand. They make about $7,785 a month.
Okay.
And so right there, you can see there's a much higher quality of life.
Right.
You're making a lot more money. Now, property prices are a lot more, but there's also less people and families stick together.
So basically, for all of you listening, if you're not rich, you're a violent criminal.
That's basically what it means. But it does have to say something with human nature, right?
Right.
The more affluent you are, the more things you have, the less you have to worry about that imminent survival, the less likely you are to commit a fight or flight mechanism.
Right.
So that's one thing. Number two, they have a higher IQ on average.
Okay.
So I was looking into it. The Swiss have around 110.8, I believe it was, and the US has like 98.4. I believe, somewhere in there. Let's just say 110 and 98.
110 and 98. Okay, so they're like roughly
12
10
IQ
to,
points.
10 to 12% higher.
Correct.
Than
the US.
Than the US. Okay.
Yeah. And so I said, okay, well, that's interesting. They're smarter. Is that less crime?
Yep.
Well, correlation not necessarily meaning causation. I looked into Brazil. Brazil has an incredibly high violent gun crime rate.
Right.
Average IQ, around 84, 86.
Okay.
So what you find is the lower the IQ, the higher the crime.
Right. Again, correlation, not causation. But when you're looking at multiple countries, this theme starts to repeat itself.
It also has a much lower quality of living, Brazil.
Right.
So those all things kind of going together.
So start repairing our educational system, start repairing our economy.
And that's where it starts, because what we see when we look at Switzerland is the government is in support of firearms. So first thing, they have a mandatory service. So when you turn 18 as a male, you are required to serve in the Swiss military.
Mm-hmm.
Now they've passed this thing where you can pay like 3% of your income if you don't want to serve. I can't remember if it is a lifetime thing or if it's until you pay up what your service would have been.
Got it.
But you can not serve. But you go into the military at 18. Like you're a male, you go in. You learn about firearms. You learn that structure, right? As you can attest to being in the military, it teaches you a lot about structure.
100%.
Yeah. And so it teaches you responsibility, the structure. When you get out of the military, you take your service weapon home.
Okay.
So right there, every male coming out of the military has a weapon.
Their service weapon.
Their service weapon.
Tactical
Rifle.
war rifle service weapon.
Their weapon of war.
Their weapon of war. In their home.
In their home.
Oh, imagine that. There is such a relationship between the government and the people that they are able to say, hey, all of our citizens have guns. And that is non-threatening to the government because the government in Switzerland may not have the intentions that our government has. When the government starts questioning whether or not you should be allowed to own firearms, then you start questioning, why do you care about whether or not I have firearms? What is the big fucking deal if we are in support of one another?
Right.
If all we are going to do is just increase your national security and give you more hit points for those in the video game realm, then why would it matter that we have more? Unless your plans are,
right,
suboptimal.
Well, it's also interesting too, because if you think about it, if a government forces, essentially, because that's what mandatory service is, forces every male to be part of military service and trains them,
right,
and then sends them home with a rifle, that government probably isn't going to go and do something bad to its citizens, knowing that they trained every single male over the age of 18.
Right. Keeps everybody in check.
Keeps everyone in check. Now imagine if the U.S. had a mandatory service.
Oh, God.
That'd be wild.
Yeah, that'd be
crazy.
That'd be a little crazy.
Crazy? I was crazy once.
So, yeah, and some might argue, well, selective service. What about that? What about having to register for selective service in case they come and they draft me and the blah blah blah? But it's
honestly,
still not
I'm kind of for it.
Still not mandate. Yeah, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like you want to live in a fucking free country that allows you to do the things you want to do. That people are literally dying to get into this country. Literally dying to cross the border to get into this country. Yeah, show how much you fucking care. I think it's good for everybody. I think it really is because it allows you to appreciate what you have, right?
Yeah.
And just kind of stand up and say, yeah, for this I will defend, and I've done the time, right?
Right.
You've earned something instead of you owe me something. And people, I think, that are born here that don't truly appreciate what a beautiful country that we actually live in, the opportunities that we have. The people. I'm not saying that people that don't or haven't served think like this, but you would be more. You're just more prone to appreciate things when you've earned it.
Very
right?
true.
And if you go through that military service and you've gone through the hardships and you were willing to defend what you have,
Right.
It's an earned. It's kind of an earned position
Right.
in society. So
Well, I mean, let's just even take this quick moment to compare and contrast the Swiss versus the Israelis, right? There's a mandatory service for the Israelis, but they don't take home their service weapon.
right.
How different would it have been when those Hamas boys flew in with their fucking paragliders
Yep.
if they knew that every fucking male over the age of 18 has served and they have their service weapon at home?
A whole lot different.
Yeah.
That
I
would've
don't think
turned-
they would have been going through fucking neighborhoods.
Nope. They're not doing that shit in Switzerland.
No.
So, yeah, I looked it up, and it's a 3% if they choose not for those who choose not to perform the military or civil service, they're required to pay the 3% tax until the age of 37.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's a long time.
yeah,
3% of your income until 37, from 18 to
yeah.
37.
And that also applies to men who are declared unfit for service. So if you
Correct.
just can't,
Right.
yeah,
But that's also if they're trying to say, "Oh, I got bad knee,"
yeah.
or "I've got glaucoma."
Just wonder if that applies to like the dude that's like, no, I was born without this leg.
Like I don't have legs. That'd be curious to find out.
Yeah.
I bet probably.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, so let's keep going on this track, right?
Yep.
The government mandates service. They send you home with a weapon. But their culture. Let's talk about their culture now, because we were talking about how the government encourages it. The government has programs to teach children about shooting guns. It's a cultural thing there.
Right.
It's not demonized by the government. It's not demonized by any political wing. It's not demonized by their culture at all. It's celebrated, it's encouraged, and it is taught young. There are festivals that everyone gets together and shoots guns. Like literally entire towns
Yes.
get together and go shoot guns.
Yes.
Like it is like, it's, I believe something I was watching, I can't remember correctly, but I believe it was, you have to go like monthly, like as a citizen, to the shooting range and like just keep up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine if in the United States, now again,
It's like,
dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery. I don't like
Right.
people telling me what to do, but
even if it's, you have to go to the range.
right.
Yeah.
But just like, let's think about this for a second. If in the United States, everyone had to, for their citizenship, they had to go to the range and qualify and show their competency with a firearm.
Be pretty amazing.
It'd be pretty amazing. It'd
Because there
just be a different little
it would be, yeah. It's a little overreaching. But
right.
Yeah.
But what you have here is a country with 8.5 million people,
Yes.
where firearm safety is taught very early. You have a higher quality of living, and you have a fuckload of guns.
Yeah.
So what we can see here is that it's quite simply just a human problem. They also, you know what they don't have in Switzerland? Pharmaceutical companies running rampant. They don't have massive amounts of pesticides being sprayed on their foods. They have agricultural regulations that the United States doesn't. They don't have, what's that company? I forget the company's name. They made Agent Orange and GMO soybeans.
Got it. Yep. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So they also don't have Swiss cheese. It's just cheese.
It's
over
just
there.
cheese
It's just
there.
cheese there. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So
It's-
huge impact.
Yeah, it's just a very interesting thing, because when you compare and contrast all of this, you can see that there is no problem. I mean, we speak this all the time. There is no problem with the firearms, because they still have had mass shootings over there. They still have crime.
Right.
They have a little bit more strict of gun rules and regulation over there, but there's still crime.
Right.
So what does that show?
Yeah. It's a societal problem.
It's a societal problem.
Yes.
And-
it is 100% a societal problem.
Again, it is dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery.
That's right. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. That's it. And what were you finding when you, because I'm assuming you looked up the key differences between their crime rate as opposed to our crime rate. So if you talk about homicide per capita, what was the difference in homicide per capita? So homicides per 100,000.
It was in the U.S. It was 4.96, I believe.
So it's about five
dudes every 100,000.
Out of every 100,000 go out and kill somebody.
Right.
Okay. And in Switzerland.
But that is all homicide, mind you.
All homicide.
All homicide.
That's pure homicide.
That's pure
not
homicide.
Self-inflicted.
That could be justified homicide as well.
Okay.
That's just all homicide.
Just all homicide.
In Switzerland, it is 0.12.
1.2.
0.12.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
0.12.
0.12.
Per 100,000.
Per 100,000. I got it right here.
Wow. That, I mean.
It's amazing.
That's next level.
Sorry, 0.13.
0.13.
That was in 2022.
Okay, hold on one second. I'm just going to run these numbers real quick.
No, sorry. Homicides per firearm is 0.12. Total gun deaths is 0.19 or 1.96.
1.96.
That's total gun deaths.
Okay, but 0.12 is the
0.12 is homicides. Suicides is 1.7
per 100,000. I just want everybody to know that's listening that it
is per capita 100,000
per capita per 100,000 people. 0.12 humans for every 100,000 people. That means for every million people, there's about one homicide.
Correct.
Roughly.
Yep.
Roughly. For every 1.2 million.
So there's about 8 and a half people that die every year.
Yeah, from homicide. yeah. I mean, it really is. What
8.5 people that die from gun homicide.
Every year.
Every year.
In a country that has 8 million people.
Yeah.
Wow. That's the next level. Should they have, and now what that means to me, that is 50 times more, roughly. That's roughly 45 times more homicide per capita deaths in the United States than in Switzerland. And there are more guns per capita in Switzerland than in the United States.
Correct.
Yeah. So you have 45 times less the homicidal crime. Mm-hmm. And significantly more guns per capita. So, it is not the guns.
Never.
There are more guns over there per humans.
Yeah.
There are more humans over here than there are guns, yet there are more homicides over here than there are guns, if you all are following that right now. Yeah. So, something is broken.
What is broken?
And it is not the amount of guns that we have. I think we can make it very clear on that. So, if this information was the shit that was being disseminated, maybe we would be having different conversations, both in the media and amongst one another when we're sitting around that Thanksgiving table and the other half of our family may question whether or not we should be owning firearms or not, right? So, yeah, I think that is good information. What else did you find?
I feel like that kind of wraps everything up, to be honest with you. It just seems like a very simple, cut and clear kind of thing.
It really is, yeah.
Like, it's a full cultural thing. And you can see it when you look into different cultures as well. Like you look into Japanese culture, they're very structured. They're very, what's the word I'm looking for? Rigorous, maybe.
Disciplined?
Thank you.
They're very disciplined.
They're very disciplined in their culture. And
you just watch how they like operate on escalators walking down the street. It's like the people on, the people that don't want to walk up the escalator, they get the fuck out of the way and they stand off to the right. And the people that do want to walk up the escalator, instead of just letting the escalator take them up, well, there's a clear path open on the left for them to do so. And you don't find that in the United States. They have established something, even using that one small example where they get the fuck out of the way for people that have shit to do. And if they decide that they don't want to move very fast, there's a place for them and they all understand their place and they all respect one another and they don't get in each other's way. Right.
Well, I mean, even it's impolite in Japan to eat while walking or like to eat or drink while walking. It's impolite. And so you don't. Like it's that thing, right? It's part of the culture that's instilled that it's like, if you want to eat, but you got to get somewhere, choose one or the other. Right. And but the streets are super clean.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Right. They also don't have pharma companies running rampant.
Yeah. And if they don't have pharma companies running rampant, there probably isn't a huge addiction problem in Japan, I would only assume, because much of addiction, if we've got our fucking eyes open, and it's been fairly clear with all of the information that we've been given, that addiction often starts with the pharmaceutical companies.
Generally.
Went in to get a back surgery, had some opiates prescribed to me, couldn't get off the opiates, went and got the street heroin or the street opiates at first, right? Because they're like, fuck, doctor stopped prescribing, got to get them off the street, got too expensive, now I'm going to do heroin, and then boom, you got a fucking heroin addict. Boom. And but where did it start? We have to look at the genesis of what's going on. We have to look at the genesis of the fucking problem. Pull it out by the goddamn root. Right? And if it's a drug problem, it starts with the fucking pharma companies oftentimes.
Yeah.
Pull it out at the root. Right?
But it's also interesting to look at because even though you have this super polite, super disciplined society, Japanese are also pretty racist. They're pretty fucking xenophobic, too. So it's like, right? Like you look at it and you go, it's all this people problem. So it starts at home, guys.
Well, look at all the fucking wars they've been through. Look at all the
starts at home, guys.
It really
That's the
does.
whole point we're getting at here.
It really does. It starts at home. It starts with you. It starts with your family. It starts with the way that we raise our children. It starts with us. I mean, now we were talking about earlier, and this is a really good point, right? We were talking about, well, that's great. Switzerland, mandates the fact that you have to go out and train with your rifle, and they have these range days. You could bring your family and bring your children, educate them on firearms, whatever. But we shouldn't rely on the government to do these things for us. This starts at home.
Starts at home.
You got to talk to your kids about the guns. You got to show them how important it is that they treat it as a lethal weapon, because that's exactly what it is. It is meant to take a life. And so you respect it as such. If we can start there, then we can get somewhere. And what happens is you get, there's, children, deaths, children, firearm deaths in the United States. Is that happening in Switzerland?
Not really.
Not really.
Not really.
Why is that,
firearm deaths are barely happening in Switzerland.
So children, deaths, deaths of children by firearms in Switzerland are happening, maybe because they have an appreciation for the weapon system and they understand that it needs to be put away and locked up without the ammunition, right? Or
there's a lackadaisical nature that is happening in the United States.
Right.
And I found it very interesting. I was watching a little mini documentary on it, and this guy, he's a Swiss national, owns a gun shop, owns a shooting range. I think he's an NRA member in Switzerland, right? So, but like an American NRA member,
right?
But lives in Switzerland, and so he said something very interesting. This guy was interviewing him, and he's like, "What do you what's your opinion on the crime rates in the U.S. and like what's going on there?" And I really kind of liked his take on it. He goes, "I just don't understand why Americans are so dumb." And when you can take yourself out of it and not get personally offended that he's calling Americans dumb, right? You go, where are you going with this? He's like,
where are we heading?
He's like, how are these kids dying? Why would somebody think it's okay to leave a loaded firearm out with a child,
right?
With like a 3-year-old.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, like obviously I wouldn't do that, but
there's nothing that
he points it out, and it's like, that's a good point. Why did that kid have access to that?
Dude, there's nothing that terrifies me more than like having a firearm in my house with my children and not
not locked up.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't happen with me, but dude, that is the first thing I think about. If I am placing a firearm somewhere, putting it somewhere, storing it somewhere, is like, okay, I've got people in the house that could potentially get access to this. How do I prevent them from doing so?
Right.
If people just use their brains, like the guy was saying, and just not be dumb, then you would prevent that, right?
Easily.
Having a lock on something that they can't get access to, that they cannot cut, a combination lock that they don't know.
Or a safe.
Yes, something outside of their fucking birthday.
Not
preferably.
a Liberty safe.
Yes, not a Liberty safe.
They'll just, give that up to the government.
Because then they will give you all their information.
Because they'll give you their information. But, it is a lackadaisical nature, and I harp on this a lot, especially in a lot of the like range therapies that I make, because what you'll see in like the comments on like my gun flipping videos and stuff like that, and I see where these guys are coming from when they're like, this is dangerous, this is unsafe. I see where you're getting at. It's wanting to promote gun safety, but in the same nature, you're the guy that's probably going to ND pulling out of his holster because you have a lack of competency with your firearm. Firearms are tools for a martial art of killing.
Yep.
Used in self-defense, just like karate or BJJ or Muay Thai is a martial art for killing your opponent that should be used in self-defense.
And so when you're doing those things and you're spinning the gun and that gun is facing you, possibly near you, around you,
Yes.
and could potentially, the barrel could cross your path at any
Correct.
given point. You are, and I've witnessed it, you are at bolt lock or slide lock.
Yes.
And when you're at bolt lock or slide lock, what is not in the gun?
Bullets.
Yes, bullets.
Well, also
right?
too,
So-
it's an example of if I take a gun in my hand, right? And in the firearm safety rule of always treat a gun like it's loaded. I think it's gotten, I don't want to say perverted, but a little skewed.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of been dumbed down for absolute morons, I think.
Yes.
Where it's like, always treat a gun like it's loaded. It's like if I pick up a gun, I rack it back, I check there's no bullet in there.
Yes.
There is no bullet in that. I'm still not going to point it at you because that is impolite.
Correct.
Right?
Nobody wants to have
You
it.
don't know.
Yep.
Nobody wants that. You just don't practice that. There are things you don't do. But,
Ryan walked into my office the other day, and he had this little prop gun, right?
Yeah.
And it was
not an Alec
no,
Baldwin
go ahead.
prop gun.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
I was just going to say that if I take that, I check it, I can put it to my hand and pull the trigger. Should I? No.
Right.
But I know that gun is unloaded.
Right.
Right. You treat it like it is. But if I take it, rack it, click, I can then do pretty much anything I want with it. It is a hunk of metal.
If it has not left your custody, then
Yes.
you know that gun is
If
unloaded.
I set it down
and turn around,
and there's other people around,
then you're going to pick that gun up and
then
you're
I'm
going to
gonna
check
check
it
it.
again.
and it's also good practice, even if you just set it down, just to go, did I? Okay, cool.
When somebody checks a gun, right? They pull the slide back, they make sure it's unloaded,
Right.
and then they let the slide go forward and they hand it to you. What do?
Check it.
You fucking check it.
Why wouldn't you?
Because you want to be the one that verifies that it's unloaded.
Right.
You don't want to rely on somebody else.
Right.
These are just like simple,
It's like if you say, hand me that knife, you don't just go,
yes.
you go, oh.
You look, right? Which side's
There are
being
plenty
handed
of
to me is-
people that will hand you a knife blade first.
Absolutely. Happens all the time.
You look,
But talking about how uncomfortable it is to have a fucking gun pointed at
Yeah.
you, Ryan walked in to my office one time, and my office, it faces like the window, and the sun comes in through
Yeah,
the
you get
window.
silhouette kinda
right?
thing.
So he was kind of silhouetted, and he walked in and he pointed a fucking gun at me, and I swear to God, I about fell out of my fucking chair. I was like, "Whoa, what the fuck are you doing?" And he goes, "Oh no, it's just it's a gun for liberals." And I was like, "What is this?" And it's a gun. It's like a fake gun.
it's a plastic.
It's a plastic gun, and the barrel is actually pointed at yourself.
Imagine, so like you got a revolver grip, but then
Yep.
you take the revolver and turn it back this way.
Right, and
I'll
then
pop a photo.
the barrel is pointed at
you.
you, even as you hold the firearm.
Yeah.
And he was just joking, but it doesn't matter because all I saw was a silhouette. All I saw was him present a firearm, and I had no idea what the fuck was going on. But I about fell out of my fucking chair. I was like, "Dude, Jesus!" Like, about to draw down on you. I didn't know
Right.
if you're going to be the fucking disgruntled office employee that came in here. You know, it makes anybody
Vet disgruntled office employee
Jesus, dude.
having a PTSD attack, dude.
Just lighting everybody up in the office.
God.
Yeah, so I don't know, man. It starts at home. It starts, when we're
They also don't have a gang problem, dude. They also
right.
don't, they don't
let's
have
talk. Let's talk about that. So
Yeah.
the crime problem, the gang problem in Switzerland stems from the gangs that are in Switzerland. You were reading them to me.
they're all
was-
non-native.
Yeah, it said like the Nigerian gang of.
There's like Nigerian gangs. There's the Italian mafia.
Italian
the,
mafia,
The
yep.
Balkans. I think there was a West African or something like that.
Right.
And it's like, oh, so all of the violent crime gangs that are even located in Switzerland are non-nationals?
Non-nationals. Yep. So, yeah, I mean, it goes a little bit deeper, and it goes a little bit deeper than just the gun. It
Right.
goes a little bit deeper than just even the crime problem in the United States. It's a fundamental. How are we raising our children, and how are we allowing the educational system to raise our children problem that we have in the United States?
Right.
That's what we're dealing with.
Right.
We are dealing with a systemic issue of we don't want to raise our kids. We want the government to raise our fucking kids for us, right?
Well,
I'm
it's
just
like-
going to send them to school. They'll teach them the values. No, they're there to teach them history. They're there to teach them math. They're there to teach them science. They are not there to teach them values. And thank God for that. And that's actually not even what's happening because they are indoctrinating fucking children with shit that,
Yes.
I mean, it happened. We're all well aware of this. I'm not going to go down that diatribe, but I think we can all understand that we don't want them doing that,
Right.
because that is exactly what Hitler did in Austria. Was he was like, "Don't worry, men and women can
That's
work.
exactly what I was
let us
about to
take
say.
let us take your children. We will take care of them for you. We will teach them everything that they need
Right.
to know, including why they shouldn't listen to you, the parents."
Right.
So
And what you see nowadays is a lot of bad actors that are teachers,
right,
right? Not all of them. There's a lot of good teachers out there, but there's a lot, and I mean a lot, that are pushing their agenda on kids.
Yeah.
And it is not good.
No.
It's not good whatsoever. They're like,
I don't blame people for homeschooling their kids, dude.
No,
like
dude.
I really don't. Like I think
I think you're going to get a better education under homeschool. Honestly,
yeah,
like
yeah,
even if your parents are kind of like extremists, I think you're probably going to get a better education.
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the average cost of childcare is about $15,000 annually.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I get it. It's hard to say from like the position that I'm in to just tell you like, just raise your kid. Don't
Right.
pay for childcare and don't work the job. I don't know.
Well, I mean, people can't, and sometimes, the unfortunate part is if we were to homeschool our children, I don't know a lot about homeschooling. I genuinely don't. But what I can say is, if you as a parent are uneducated, how are you supposed to educate the next generation? You almost have no choice at that point
Right,
to say,
but to
okay,
say,
I'm going
hey,
to put them in an institution.
Well, I don't
that's gonna
remember
give
what
them,
I learned from school, so I'm going to put them in the same place that I came
and
from.
even if there is homeschooling platforms and programs that will guide you through the process of training your kids, and maybe you can learn at the same time, there is something to be said about professional and professional education, right? That professional level of education, that credentialed level of education. It's just that's all they should be fucking doing, not indoctrinating our kids. But what that also means is it's a responsibility back to the parent to be able to instill the values and not expect the school system to do that too. Because when people think, oh, I don't need to tell my kids about X, Y, or Z because I'm sure the school is going to cover that,
Right.
then you've got a fucking problem, significant problem.
Huge problem.
And the other part of it is when children are engaged in crime and they start getting in with the wrong people and doing the wrong shit, especially when they become teenagers, it's often due to the fact that they've got the time to do that.
Right.
So what's important is when they get out of school, where are they going? What are they doing?
Right.
And I mean, this isn't a lesson on parenting, but
It's important.
the kids, most kids that most people that I've met that haven't committed crimes, that are law-abiding citizens, that are fairly
Upstanding individuals.
upstanding individuals, contributors of society. A lot of them have been kept busy while they were young. They got out of school, they went into a sport, or they
Right.
volunteered, or they did something. They were occupied, because during that age, that is exactly what you should be. You should be stimulated on a regular basis. You should be stimulated every single day, learning either the physical capabilities of your body, the mental capabilities of your mind, and because that's what being young is for. It's about learning the way the world works. It's about gaining more information, gaining more knowledge. And it doesn't just stop at 2:20 when your kid gets out of school.
Right. And they shouldn't just go home and have unfettered access to
the internet and their phones.
horrible
Yeah.
version of the Alexander Library,
Right.
or the Library of Alexandria.
Yeah, because that's actually, I don't know if that's better or worse, but then, hanging out with the wrong crowd. Because maybe they'll sit around and just smoke weed after school and not do anything wrong and still live a fruitful life. But maybe they'll get hooked up with the gang because you're neglecting them, but hey, I've got family here. And that's usually what you see from gang members.
Right.
It's, I didn't have a family, I had a lack of a family, I had family that didn't support me, didn't love me, and I found this group of people that was willing to take me in and say, hey, we got
family
you.
now.
You're family now.
Yeah.
We're going to take care of you now, right? And it's a sense of belonging that they didn't have. And so I really think, like, I know it's going to be a really bold statement, but I think the fundamental problem of our country lies in the lack of responsibility in our parenting.
I completely agree with you.
I think that's it.
100%.
And it goes back to the Mother Teresa quote that I've quoted before. It's like, if you want to change the world, go home and love your fucking family. She just dropped, sans fucking.
Right. No, I'm pretty sure she said that verbatim.
It's just go home and love your family.
Yeah.
Be there for your family. Educate your family. Spend time with them. Show them that you care. Every night that I tuck my daughters in, I tell them I am proud of them. Regardless, we go through the day. We'll talk about the things that happened in their day, the rights, the wrongs. Hey, I didn't, not super cool with you talking to your mom like that and the way that this happened because mistakes are made.
Right.
But the last words I say to them before they go to bed is, I'm proud to be your father. I love you and I am proud of you. And they say, thank you, Dad. I love you too. And they go to bed. And they know every single night that I tuck them in, because I tuck them in every single fucking night. I will always let them know that I am here for them, that I am proud of them.
Right.
And if we all could do that, and I know not everybody, some people work nights, some people work late, but not everybody works 24 hours a day. So find the time to spend the time with your children, because this next generation, if we want to fix the next generation, it starts at home. It starts with us. It starts with the mothers and the fathers and the values that we instill in our kids. Right. And what does this have to do with guns? Fucking everything. It's got everything to do with guns.
Because we have to raise a better next generation.
Yes, because if we want the capabilities to be able to continue to defend ourselves and protect ourselves and give the other side of us, the controlling side of us, the government, less ammunition to use about the tools that we are using to protect ourselves, then it starts with us. If we took all of their ammunition away, their ammunition being, look at the gun crime, look at the gun violence, look at the gun, all that bullshit that they use, that they perpetuate, that
what can they say?
They can't say anything.
Right.
Because we've now raised a generation who've hopefully we've kept off of their phones, off of social media long enough to learn a skill, learn a trade, learn some values, and they're not out there killing each other. They're not joining gangs, right? Most people who, it's funny because you look at the type of human beings who are out there committing crimes, committing atrocities, hurting other individuals in their adult life.
Yeah.
Almost inevitably, they have had some traumatic experience in their childhood or neglect.
Yep.
It's either neglect or trauma.
They're trying to get attention in some way because we're all fucking kids just wanting mom and dad's approval.
That's right. And if my life had gone down that route with before I was adopted, if I hadn't been adopted, I would be in a very different place right now when I was adopted at 7, right? So right at that 6, 7-year-old threshold, also a very impressionable time, that changed my life. That changed everything for me, right? It kind of just redirected me towards what's important, towards what type of human being I need to be. And they took all time away from me for me to do bad shit.
Right.
They legitimately did. If I wasn't, I would have to come home, I'd have to do my homework, I'd have to study, I'd have to go do chores, I'd have to pull the weeds in the back, I'd have to clean the fucking, I would have to sweep outside, I'd have to rake the leaves. All those things kept me busy enough to where I wasn't hanging around the hoodlums, vetting the friends.
Right.
That's also important, right? My wife and her whole family is my wife and her brothers are very good human beings. And that's all due to the parenting that came into their household. And how did they do that? One small subset of it was they vetted the friends.
Right.
So you want to go out with this guy tonight and you want to be home at 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock. Okay, cool. Bring them over here.
Yep.
I want to meet them.
Yep.
Give me their parents' phone number. Let me talk to them. I can't get it. You can't go. They can't meet me. You can't go.
Easy peasy.
Right? It's that easy.
Yeah. It's the parents' responsibility.
It is.
You got to look out for your kid.
Because if the 21-year-old kid comes over to take your 17-year-old kid, boy even, 21-year-old dude with fucking tattoos on his neck, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with tattoos on your neck. I still want to get my neck tattooed. Don't judge me.
I'm planning on getting my neck tattooed.
But what I'm saying is, if that dude who looks like, and
if he looks like a hoodlum,
you get a bet who looks like a hoodlum, sounds like a hoodlum, doesn't seem like he's up to any good, walks up and says, hey, I'm going to take your 16-year-old son out and we're going to go do some things. Well, what does a 21-year-old have to do taking my 16-year-old out? Yeah. Absolutely fucking not, right? Nope.
No.
Go hang out with somebody your own fucking age, dude.
Yeah.
He's going to find another 16-year-old friend that they can go to Cold Stone Creamery and get some fucking ice cream tonight and like, hit on chicks.
Yeah.
Like that's what should be happening that evening, right? Going out, socializing with their friends,
They're
meeting
not
girls,
going drinking
whatever.
with you.
Yeah, but they're not going drinking and doing drugs with you and having them pull you into their your little system and your system of indoctrination, whatever that may be. That's how we change the next generation. We do it with the parenting. We've all got a personal responsibility in that. That will change everything for the firearm industry as well. It all bleeds into it.
Right. It's that extreme shift, right, that we see from like the previous generation of hard parenting.
Yes.
And now we have this extreme swing of gentle parenting where people don't want to be helicopter parents. They don't want to intrude on their kids. They don't want to yell at them. And it's like, bro, it's like, I'm not saying to yell at your children. That's not what I'm saying here. But what I'm saying is you just popped out a tiny human that has no idea of what the world is.
Yeah.
You've got to help them along.
Especially with all the information that is out there. Now, your kids are going to have access, whether you like it or not, because you may not give them a phone. You may not let them watch TV.
But their friends might have
Their
it.
friends are going to have it. They're going to see the TV. They're going to see a phone. They're going to see social media. And do you want that raising your kid, or do you want to be involved and let them know what's right and wrong?
Right.
They'll figure it out one way or the other. And they will establish what's right or wrong one way or the other, because that is one thing that we're figuring out through the process of growing up is what can I do and what can't I do? What should I do? What shouldn't I do? How should I behave? How shouldn't I behave? And if you allow social media and you allow the televisions to do this work for you, it's going to look a lot different in this next generation of kids that are growing up. And it has. And we've seen it. We are seeing it. It is happening.
I want to be a YouTuber. I want to be a streamer.
Yes. Why does everybody want to be a fucking YouTuber? Because their kids allow YouTube to parent their fucking children.
Right.
Because
And so
the parents are allowing their children. You see where I'm getting with that.
I think you said it right the first time.
Okay, got it.
But yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and if you just let your child watch YouTube and watch these streamers, that's what they want to do because they get addicted to it.
Yes.
You're addicted to it.
It's a fucking dopamine hit.
Yeah.
It's a huge dopamine hit. When you wake up and you grab your phone and you look at your phone, it's a dopamine hit.
Oh.
Yeah. It's just like, why do we do it?
Now
why
imagine what it does to a fresh little brain.
Yes.
We're grizzled.
Yeah.
We're pieces of beef jerky. Now imagine what it does to a bright little 9-year-old.
Right. Yeah. They're watching. I mean, we've talked about this, I know, but it's worth repeating that even gone are the days of playing video games. They are now watching other kids play video games. Dude, what the fuck is that? I don't even get that. What? You're going to sit down and watch a video of another kid playing a video game? Talk about the least possible productive thing you could do. Playing video games is already pretty unproductive. Less a little hand-eye coordination, less the entertainment value that comes from it. I get it. It's entertaining, and done in moderation. It's not going to ruin the world. But you're watching kids play the video games?
Right.
This is next level shit.
It's next level.
Right? Sitting back and watching TV, watching these, like the Kardashians ruin the fucking world, which is literally what's happening.
Yeah.
Because oh, sweet. We're going to gather together as a family and watch another family
have dinner.
And why don't you just
bitch at each other about nothing?
Bro, why don't you put your kids in the same area as you, pull out some food and have dinner with them?
Yeah.
You'll get the same fucking experience.
It's going to be much better, too.
It's going to be better. It's going to be like this real life. You could watch it on TV. They're having dinner together. Or you could just have dinner together.
Right.
With your fucking kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just put away the electronics. Trust me. The TikTok is not worth it.
No.
The TikTok doesn't matter. Like the video on YouTube doesn't matter. The fucking instant dopamine hit doesn't matter. The smiles at the table matter.
Yeah.
Building a Lego set matters.
Yes.
Teaching a skill matters. And I feel like I've seen it gone in the days because my parents, they were like this a little bit. I was the baby, so I got less of it.
Right.
Spoiled.
Yeah.
But I feel like people are forgetting give your children chores. They're
Yes.
part of the household.
And don't pay them for it.
No.
Yes.
Like it's part of the household.
Yes.
You live here.
Yes.
You help take care of this
Yeah.
place.
I do not pay my kids to do anything.
Why would you?
No.
It's not a job.
They have things that they do every morning. They wake up, they do it. It's routine. They don't even have to, I don't have to tell them to do it
You
anymore.
feed
My
them,
wife doesn't
you
have to.
clothe them, you give them shelter.
Yes, they do the things.
Then they help with the house.
They are now making their own breakfast. They help with their little brother. And it's like, I don't want them to raise their little, because my daughters are 8 and 10 years old and my son is 2 years old. So they help with him, but they by no means raise him. And some people also make that fucking mistake, right? Where it's like, yeah, watch brother. We're going to
watch
do
your
a
brother.
thing.
Gotta do the thing. Yeah.
And while they need to, and it's just part of the household, it's just us operating as a family unit.
Right.
When we see the government wanting to disrupt a nuclear family, there's a point which we have to wonder why. And why would you want to disrupt the nuclear family? Why would you want to disrupt this entity that builds confidence and respect and education and values?
That literally got us here.
That got us exactly where we are.
We wouldn't be here without some sort of nuclear family.
Right. And so if we are absent the values, if we are absent the skills and the education and the things that we need to succeed as human beings in everyday society, who do we need? The government. It's very apparent.
Right.
The second all of that fails, the second we don't have it, who do we look to? We look to the next layer of authority. And that next layer of authority will always be the United States government in some capacity.
Right.
Local governments, state governments, federal governments, right? And so this is the problem when they're like, hey, don't worry about this. Hey, it's okay. You can not do these things.
Don't worry about taking your kid. Put him in childcare.
Yes.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
We got him.
It's all good. We'll subsidize it.
We'll subsidize it. Don't worry about it.
Yep.
You're good.
Yeah.
Hey, don't freak out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, it's okay. Look, hey, there's a divorce attorney on every corner, on every block, in every city. It's all good. Don't worry about working shit out. Don't worry about keeping those,
Don't worry about the vow you made.
Don't worry about maintaining the vows. Just go get a divorce, split the family up, cause major trauma within your own family unit, and when they grow up and they can't sustain, they'll look for the government for help. More reliance on the government makes the government more powerful. Anytime they get that power, it bolsters their credibility to say, hey, you also don't need guns. And they go, okay, and then they vote for it.
Yep.
You took care of me, I'll take care of you.
I can't remember if we mentioned it in the last podcast or in any podcast, but it's I know I've talked to you about it before, but like that's the reason our founding fathers were able to start the Revolutionary War. They were self-sufficient.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
And we're back.
The previous podcast?
Yeah, it was still on there. Yeah. But continuing on, they were self-sufficient. The government was across the ocean. It wasn't, damn, if I rebel against the current government at hand, how am I supposed to get my food stamps?
Yeah.
How am I supposed to get my energy? No, they didn't have that shit.
Yeah.
They chopped down their trees for firewood. They had a community. They hunted for food, and they traded with their neighbors.
Right.
It wasn't, I mean, if the government goes down, well, then there goes the power grid. There goes the water supply.
There goes our medical.
There goes our medical. The more they control, the more in the hands of the government, the less you can, how am I trying to put this? The easier the system is to fall.
Yeah.
Humans are fallible.
Right.
Right.
Or the more they can peel your rights away kind of one at a time and have you go, well, that's fine. Because you subsidize my medical, because you subsidize my because you've got my grid up and I can comfortably go home and turn on my air conditioner. So sure, have the guns.
Have the guns.
Yeah.
Not a big deal.
No big fucking deal.
Yeah. I get to go home and watch the Kardashians. No worries, dude.
But when you are have this layer of separation like you were talking about, then and you are able to be self-sustaining, the more independent you are, the less reliant on the entity that you are, the more you will question and not put up with the things that they are doing.
Correct.
And right? It's like our kids have to put up with us because they are reliant and they are dependent on us.
It's like
right?
it's like have you ever seen like recordings of the police like pulling over like these mountain men that are like coming into town to like trade and like buy stuff every once in a while? So they're far and few between, but you'll have these like mountain men or people in Alaska that are very self-sufficient.
Yeah.
And like when they have run-ins with the cops, they look at the cops like, what the fuck are you even doing? Yeah. Like you are so beneath me on a bug level. Like I take care of all of my needs, my energy, my food, my water, my clothing.
And my self-defense.
Yeah, and my self-defense. So not just meaning they go to the grocery store and work hours. No. They chop down their trees. They hunt their food. They sew their own clothing. And they're looking at these people
and
like...
when somebody shows up trying to hurt them, they protect themselves, not the police.
Yeah,
so
and
when
then
the
they
police
bury them out back.
So when the police show up under the guise of, look, I'm just trying to fucking protect the community, they go, what are you doing here?
Yeah, they're like, what the fuck even are you? Why do you exist? I don't need you. But seriously, though, like imagine somebody comes up to you and is like... Let's say or perfect example, we make tactical products.
Right.
Somebody comes up and is like, I can make your body armor for you. And you're like, I don't need you to. I make my own body armor.
Yeah.
Right?
I wouldn't.
Why would I do that?
Conversation moot. Yeah.
Right? Like you have a detailing company and somebody's like, I can detail all your cars.
Yeah, I don't.
It's just like,
no. Yeah, it's
I
the same,
detail my cars.
It's the same principle when they get, if they're doing all the things and then the government steps in and says, I need you to do a thing. No. What are you doing here? Get the fuck out of the way.
Get out of the way.
I sustain, I am independent, and I don't need you.
Yeah.
And if we had more of that, then we'd have less of what we're in, which is this reliance on the government and this like lack of questioning of what they're doing because, okay, well, we need them for this, so I guess we're going to let them get away with that.
Right.
Unacceptable, right? So I don't know. Like I know that we started talking about Switzerland and really what's going on over there. And the other thing that I wanted to bring up about Switzerland before we wrap up here is it would be also fair. I'd be remiss not to say, and it does. I don't think it really goes. Well, maybe it does. Maybe it does.
I'm so curious where this is going.
Feed into our argument a little more, like because I was thinking about like what I'm about to say is that. Is that a benefit for what you and I are arguing or a detriment to what you and I are arguing?
I would say a benefit, but continue.
It is this. Is it because they have more guns, less crime, we've established that, there's also just less people, right? And imagine, what would be harder to maintain?
I have a theory on this.
What's harder to maintain? 2 kids in your house? Like we've all had it. Birthday party or fucking 50 kids running around in your house.
Much harder to manage.
It's just a shit show, right? So if you've got between 8 million and 350 million, that is roughly like 2.5% of our population. They have 2.5% of our national population.
Right.
That is a lot less to maintain.
Yes.
That is a lot less to not control, but just protect and you establish guidelines for a less quantity of people. You can enforce those guidelines and the laws a hell of a lot easier than when you've just got this many people in the United States.
So I also have a theory on that. It's my own personal theory.
Yeah.
That is the higher concentration of people in a vicinity causes more crime. Not just like, more people, more crime, but I'm talking literally per capita and causes people to go a little kooky.
Yeah.
Because you look at these massive cities. Chicago, New York, LA.
Yep.
Tons of fucking people mashed together.
San Francisco.
Tons
of people.
Just mashed together in this tiny fucking little spot.
Yes. Yeah, that's...
Think about that, guys.
Yeah.
Tiny fucking little spot.
Yeah.
There's tons of land everywhere, but you have millions of people just jammed together and crime is fucking rampant.
Well, think about last time you were at an event where you were just packed in together like sardines, whether it was like just a sports event, right? You get in, you're excited to go to the game, you're packed in with all these people, they're bumping into you, there's 50 lines for everything, including the bathroom, and you really do. The irritability kind of kicks in after a while, and you know that feeling when you walk out of the stadium and it opens up and the space between you and the human being next to you. Yeah, the space between you and the human being next to you opens up by like, it goes from 1 foot to 3 feet to 6 feet to 18 feet. And you're just like, damn.
Shit.
It's like this breath of fresh air, this relief. Like I've got people away from me now.
Yeah.
And when you pack people into a city like that, especially, you want to talk biologically and going back way in. We are a tribal community,
Right.
We pack together in tribes of people that we trust, and we ran
Exactly,
together
with like 100 people.
8,000 years ago, and all that.
Yeah.
Right. But with 100 people,
With
you
100
didn't
people.
stack people on top of each other inside of the same building on 50,000 different levels, and have to wait for the elevator
Right.
for 16 hours to come down. And eventually, it's enough to drive anybody fucking insane.
Yes.
Yeah.
It drives you bonkers.
So I think, and that's not correlation doesn't equal causation.
That's just a theory that I have.
I don't know. I legitimately think that is a sound theory, and I think that there is incredible correlation between you jam enough people into one space, bad shit is going to happen.
Yeah.
Because we see it in all the inner cities throughout the United States.
And it drives people to just fucking break.
Yep.
On top of that, you were saying if it's detriment or if it's positive for our argument. And I would say it's an overall positive. The reason is it gives our argument side it is a people problem. It points out perfectly it is 100% a people problem.
It is, yeah.
That it's not a firearm problem.
Right. The more of us there are, the more crime there's going to be, even as a per capita thing, right? We like talking about per capita and statistics because it matters, right? It doesn't matter if you've got like 500 million if there's 5,000 firearm deaths per year in the United States, and there's way more than that. I'm just like throwing out random numbers at this point, so just know that. We'll
Fives
call it
and tens are easy to work with.
We'll call it 50,000. So there's 50,000 firearm deaths in the United States, but there's 1,000 firearm deaths in Switzerland, whatever it is. And you run with that. Well, okay, those numbers are quasi irrelevant until you talk about like what is it per capita. But there is this multiplier that happens, right? There's a multiplier with when you start getting into now you've just got more people. Well, what is the police per capita?
Right.
What is the, what is like the regulation in that county per capita? There are so many other things to look at, and it's like
how many people are jammed in per town?
Right.
Like what is literally the per capita of the town?
Right.
I think it's also important to note that the Swiss don't have a government that literally flooded drugs into the streets to disrupt ethnic groups.
Yes. That was
looking at you, Nixon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And whoever else.
These things are facts of our history, facts of our society that have changed the landscape for crime and what has happened with humans using firearms.
Yeah.
So, and these things happened by the hand of the government.
Right.
They did not. These were things that were initiated by the government.
Yes.
And now they've got a problem with the things that are happening. So, hey, we put these things in place.
To me, that sounds like a plan.
It does. You put these things in place to have these things happen. More crime is committed because we intentionally put the drugs on the streets to do the thing. And now we've got a problem. And now you want to blame the guns.
Now you want to blame the guns. To me, that sounds like a chess move. I don't know.
It does.
I'm a moron.
Yeah. And for those of us that, may want to take that route and say, well, don't give them that much credit. They're not that smart. I say absolute bullshit. They are. There are plenty of smart people in the government, believe it or not. And I know it sounds crazy to say, but there are intelligent people who have done things to not only sway things in the United States, but have literally facilitated proxy wars in other countries and removed democratically elected leaders in other countries, CIA, and
don't know who you're talking about.
They're
H.W. Bush.
Dude, these things happened.
Yeah.
We have the historical evidence to show that they have been smart enough to make calculated chess moves. Why can't we say that these things are happening in the United States at the same time without sounding like that tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist guy? It's not a theory, man. There's history backing all this information up. We see it. We watch it.
Yeah.
And they admit it, just like with Nixon.
Yeah.
It is admitted.
Oh, we got caught.
We
yeah, we did it.
Yeah, we did it.
I saw
something really interesting when you're talking about getting caught. Now, remember how we talked about Andrew Tate on the last I don't know, one of the podcasts ago?
Yeah, 2 podcasts ago or so.
Okay, so you know how I say sometimes he says things that's like, okay, I can agree with that.
Right.
Right? One of the things that popped up in a feed somewhere that I was watching was him
there
say,
a truck going, like a video game truck?
Probably underneath it to keep the...
You're like,
oh God. Yeah. So one of the things that he said, and I was like, yeah, I can get behind that, is when somebody does something and you catch them doing it, they've been caught, and they say, sorry about that. I lied to you. I think the example he was using was you found out that somebody was talking shit about you behind your back. You found that out that one time by that one friend told you that they were doing it. Is it now you have to think to yourself, if I know about this one time, how many other times? This is just the fucking time you got. Like, you have to assume
the FBI was only found to use the database 400,000 times.
400,000 times. So if they were like, hey, we did it 400,000 times, we could safely assume that was like 16 million times.
Easily.
If Nixon and his aides did the things that he did in that time to put the drug, to create that inner city black violence, which they wanted to disrupt those communities.
They wanted to destroy those communities.
And that was found out because his constituents, or his aides rather, came out and admitted this is what we were doing during his tenure. Then how many other facets and arms of the government are doing the exact same fucking thing and we just don't know about it?
A lot.
A lot.
I saw a post and it was the best thing. And it was like, what is the weirdest part about your culture that nobody just really talks about? And somebody was like, well, in the US, we have conspiracy theories that the CIA 35 years later says, yeah, we did that, but you can't really do anything about it. And everybody just kind of forgets.
Yeah. Yep. That's right. Yeah. They literally come back out after it's all been released and go, yeah, yep, that happened.
Yeah. Do you remember chemtrails?
Yeah.
You remember? So chemtrails, 5-10 years ago, if you said the word chemtrail, people would look at you and they would go, you're a fucking kooky conspiracy theorist. And then all of a sudden they were like, oh yeah, no, we're spraying in the air chemicals.
Yeah.
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 And then everybody was like, yeah, they spray chemicals. Yeah.
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 And now we're all on board with that.
And
now that you know it's a fact.
It's like, okay, but why?
Yeah, but why? Are we not going to ask the question?
Why are we doing that?
Yeah.
Why is there aluminum up there?
Right. And good for Texas for banning chemtrails.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, that's exactly what should be fucking happening. Like, hey, we are not going to promote the use of this. This is not allowed. Don't do it.
Yeah. It's, one thing that I want to say is, first off, Sun Tzu, never underestimate your enemy.
Right.
And the government will always be your enemy. 2, the next time you think to yourself, wow, that senator, that congressman is a fucking idiot. Well, guess what, buckaroo? I can't remember exactly what Herrera said, but he figured out it's like they only have to serve like 4 or 5 years and they get a pension for life.
Damn.
So next time that you think to yourself, wow, that congressman is an absolute fucking idiot, look at yourself in the mirror and look at your job and say, did I work for 5 years and get a fucking pension for life? A congressional pension for life?
Who's the idiot now?
Who's the idiot now? And I'm looking in that mirror and going, me.
Me.
Damn.
That
hurts, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's fucking painful.
Yeah, think about that.
Yeah.
You got cops having to work, 20, 25 years to get a fucking
to be able
pension?
to draw on their pension, yeah.
And then, but you have fucking congressmen who say whatever they need to say to get reelected, because that's all it is.
Yep.
They're just like, what current thing is being supported by my team? That.
We'll do it.
We'll do it.
Yeah, we'll say we're going to do it, and then we won't actually fucking do it.
Yeah.
My constituents want X, Y, and Z. I'll campaign on that, and then I won't do shit.
Then I won't do anything.
Because I'm not obligated to, and I don't have to.
I'm going to sit in my office and look at porn. And then in 5 years, I'm going to collect $160,000 for the rest of my days.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So, I don't have anything else on this one. I think this wasn't the happy cast.
No, not a happy cast. But I think important takeaways.
Yes.
If you are arguing with somebody who's anti-gun, I think you should take it to Switzerland.
Yes.
And I think you should kind of bring up these points, which is, yes, the U.S. has higher crime rates. Yes, we have more gun violence. Yes, we have all these things. And yes, per capita, when you look at it, we're worse.
Right.
But so is our IQ. So is our standard of living. So there's a lot of things.
Yes.
Now, America is an amazing country, and you can make the world of it. But it's important to note their argument that the guns are the problem, it's not true. It is not the guns. We have a cultural and societal and human problem.
Yes.
And we need to solve it. And it starts with you, starts with your family, starts with your kids. Make the next generation better.
Yeah. Agreed with all of it.
And fuck the ATF.
And you want to make society a better place, like genuinely the most fundamental way to truly bring this country, this government to its absolute knees, to be able to lead a better life, to be able to promote something that we could be proud of for generations to come. There's only one answer, and it is getting on the 2A Pro Discord, which is discord.gg/2apro. The link is down in the description. It is a wild ride. It's a lot of fun. You'll meet a lot of cool people, and we are all in there bantering and causing chicanery. It's just an amazing, amazing place, and you can change the world.
You can change the world. Oh,
yes.
I want to bring this up.
Yes.
I'm so happy I remembered this. Talking about this will be just a minute. Talking about how it's a societal problem.
Yes.
I saw on Twitter the other day somebody commenting on a gun post, because I think somebody was telling the government to absolutely eat their dick.
Yep.
A guy who is, I believe he's like not a psychologist. He's like some sort of MD. He's a medical doctorate.
Yep.
He said, holding a firearm is like holding the ring from Lord of the Rings, that it's an overwhelming existential feeling of power. This is who we're arguing against, mind you. This is that. When I say it's a cultural problem, that someone like that has a medical doctorate, dude.
Yeah. An existential feeling of power.
Like,
Jesus.
Like, have you ever you've watched Lord of the Rings, right?
Yes. Yeah, I read the book. I've never watched it. I read the books when I was a kid. Yeah. Yep. I didn't watch it, but it's the same. I know what it is.
Get out. No.
Why would I
no,
watch
it's
it?
fine. The movies are just great.
Yeah,
but
I'm sure they are.
Anyways,
yeah,
I just
but I've read the books and I understand the principle behind it.
Yes.
But yes, yeah, that's terrifying that anybody would pick that thing up and say, "I am the most."
Like
What?
you pick up a gun and you're like, I just have an overwhelming urge of evil power coursing through me. I can destroy. Like, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa,
However,
red flag.
the Mark 19, which is a 40 mic grenade launcher that's mounted on top of a gun truck, that, my friends, gives you the overwhelming existential feeling of power. I promise you this. I promise you this.
I can't argue.
No, not really, but yeah. Okay.
But anyways, thank you to everyone watching. We love you. We love everyone in the Discord. You guys are the best.
We do. I want to make out with you.
He wants to kiss you.
I want to kiss you.
Passionately.
And
with that.
And I want to give you an over the pants handy with eye contact.
That's a sign of true love.
True love. All right. And with that, we bid thee
Aquef.